Ready? Okay, call the meeting to order at 7:02.
Oh, wait a minute, nobody to do minutes. Anybody want to volunteer to do minutes?
I'll do them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any public input other than what's on the agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none. We'll close public input. Budget and fishing derby decision needed.
Okay, so we need to make up our mind on the fishing derby, which is usually Mother's Day weekend in May. I just wanted to make it clear that if we don't run it, last month I said it's a lot of work. Yes, it's a lot of work, but that wasn't the reason we wouldn't run it. We had some issues this year, and perhaps we need to take a year off.
Mm-hmm. So, what's the consensus of the board? Does the board want to continue it? Would they like to just take a year off, or just basically suspend it altogether?
Oh, and I say one other thing, that Harry did call the gentleman that was interested in running it, called him 2 or 3 times, never got a reply.
He's having major health issues, I understand.
Oh, okay.
What were the major issues this year?
There were some issues with people not adhering to treating their property respectfully and giving Marion a lot of back talk, and just, mostly it was not so much, some of it was the kids and some of it wasn't. So.
Would the recreation committee, would they be interested in taking it over?
I don't know, I'm Brian here.
Michael?
I don't know. If they would have not, here's a sign for
She
you.
dumped you over, but she'll pick you back up.
Oh, no, they would have not.
So,
Yeah.
why do we have to decide this now?
Because we need to either leave it in our budget, if we're gonna do it, leave it in the budget, or take it out of the budget, because the budgets they're working on them now.
Well, we can always withdraw from the budget as the process goes on. I mean, if you want to just leave it until, if you did want to send the communication to the recreation, if not, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
open either way.
Yeah, we could leave it in.
It's easy enough to take it out. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we should know whether the recreation committee wants to take over or not before we vote.
okay,
So
try and get a hold of
we'll
them,
table on that one.
okay.
Okay, now what about the rest of the budget? What do we have on?
The rest of the budget was about the same as last year. I don't think I have it with me. Oh, you have it? Thank you. Great. Our total budget with the fishing derby is $2,860. Property management was the same. Dues and subscriptions, publications, general supplies, $115. Property management, they left in $1,200. Mileage, seminars, $275, and fishing derby, $800, so $2,860.
Thanks.
So while that's being studied, we're going to appoint the most senior alternate to fill in for Marion tonight. And let's see, Mike is here, so we're not going to cover him.
And Marion and Sharon.
And Sharon, okay, so both of the new alternates will be filling in, will be filling in tonight.
So we have Matt Lepore and Jack Curtin. They don't have name tags yet.
Is this where the applause comes along?
Yeah.
We're grateful that they stepped up to the plate.
That's right. Okay, volunteer needed for planning.
So no other changes on the budget, right?
They're still looking at it.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd just move along with this
Sure.
other, yeah. Volunteer needed for planning board committee, design subcommittee. Anybody interested in volunteering to?
So I
Certainly
scanned
capacity.
this to you, able to open I believe I scanned this letter, yeah, I did, emailed August 10th.
Right.
And the planning board has a subcommittee will meet the third Thursday of the month through December of 2018 to create a community design chapter to provide a vision of what the town could look like in 10 to 15 years. So they're looking for a conservation volunteer and other volunteers as well.
Well, though it sounds like a very worthwhile endeavor, I'm really taxed out myself personally. I mean, good if we could find somebody that could go over there and maybe slide off the board, but since you have to come back and report to the board simultaneously, you're really picking up just another meeting each month. So I don't know how you could do it. I mean, either one of you would be ideal, I think, except you're taking on too much already anyway. The only way it makes sense to me is if you went there instead of here, but you've got to do both.
Yeah,
So
yeah, need both, yeah, exactly.
it feels like they have the time. I don't know.
I actually will be at most third Thursdays of the
the
planning board anyway. I don't know how much input I could give for the next 10 to 15, vision for the next 10 to 15 years. Any of you younger people interested?
10 to 15 years? Yeah. Yeah, some of us don't have 10 or 15 more years. Yeah.
One can only hope.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I can, I'll be there, so I can report back to you what happens.
Okay, why don't we just leave it at that? The Joan will be our member to the planning board community design subcommittee. Okay, now what was the question about Jack on the list?
Oh,
the
I
agenda
just
here?
put that on. I just found out today that he was,
That it already had been done.
that he
Okay,
was
all set.
interviewed and appointed, so that's all set.
The appraisal amounts, is that a non-public item or is that a public item?
Just I'll tell you that out of 6 appraisal RFPs I sent out, I got 4 back, but that'll probably be a non-public issue.
And cleaning up on 3A,
I got my calendar.
my feelings on that is if you look at the brush on 3A, I would not want any of the members to go tramping through the brush looking for the rubbish until the state has it in their heart to come and cut the brush back, or
Yeah.
until next spring when it's all been laid down by the snow, but that's my personal feeling on that.
Yes, look at it, revisit it again in October, see what happens.
Okay, see if every once in a while they'll actually find the money and they'll actually send someone out to
Yeah.
cut the brush. So I know Jack has done it a few times in some parts of town, but when he rents some equipment,
I'm sorry, what's the decision on that?
just gonna sit until next month.
Wait till
Yeah,
October.
see what it looks like in October. Okay, River Access Subcommittee, is there anything new to be added?
Yes, there is.
Something new?
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So do you know where this is? You know the big brick house? Yep. Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're here to give a final report and our final recommendation based on the work that the River Access Committee has completed. We came in early August and kind of reviewed the process that we went through. We looked at seven sites. We narrowed it down to 4 or 5. We did site walks at several of them. And then narrowed down the piece of property to the town-owned land at 296 Charles Bancroft Highway. Then at the meeting earlier this summer, we came up with a few options related to conceptual plans. And we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago and we narrowed down the options. So the options that we had for providing riverboat access at 296 Charles Bancroft Highway. Option number 1 was a driveway through the middle of the field. At our first meeting with the Conservation Commission, didn't like that idea. So we went with option number 2, which was a driveway down the side of the field, up against the property line, the south side of the property line. And then option number 3, after talking to folks that farm that land, was to maybe bring in a driveway only partially down and go down maybe 250 feet. So those are the 3 options that were on the table for us. We met as a committee last month and had a very productive meeting, and the feelings of the committee were that option 2 is the best scenario for us, and that is bringing a driveway from 3A to within about 250 feet of the river and then having a walking path down to the river. Then at our meeting, we came together and started talking about some details related to this conceptual plan. There's two things that we wanted to keep in mind. Number one is we wanted to make sure that anything that we put in here was very low impact. And number two, we wanted to have minimal disturbance. And then we had a big brainstorming session. We sat here for about an hour and we went through all the options. And this is what we came up with as far as the conceptual plan is concerned. And that's what's on that piece of paper. Some of the highlights of this plan are, starting at the road, is number one, there would be a gate there which could be lockable by the police department after a certain point at night. Number two, there would be a nice sign right out there on the road like they have at other recreation sites around town that would state the name of the park. And then there also would be a sign down here that would have the park rules on it. Number three, we came up with the idea of potentially putting some sort of fence down here, either a white vinyl fence or a similar type of wooden fence down here that stretched from 3A down anywhere between 100 to even 200 feet down the gravel driveway that was implemented. Number four, that gravel driveway would be about 20 feet wide. That would go about 500 feet down to that point on the corner of the map right in this area right here. Number five, we also talked a little bit about lining some of this area with some trees to make it look more appealing from the road. Number six, to prevent anybody from being able to get on the farmland with their vehicle, we would have boulders set up like like are set up at the conservation area to prevent anybody from getting out of that area. Related to the gates, we also even talked about putting gates in this area so a tractor could pass through there. Rich was under the impression that it might be just as easy to go down the road, but that's also an option right there. So gate here, here, and here. Fence going down here to a certain point, maybe about halfway down the field. Rocks going down the other part of the field with some trees in there to make it look good. So that was the conceptual plan that we came up with. Down here you would have somewhere in the vicinity of a 50 to 75 feet or 50 by 100 foot parking area that you can probably have about 8 or 10 cars parked down there. And then there would be a small pathway to the river. We wouldn't have any disturbance along the river here at all. The 250-foot shoreland setback line kind of runs through where the parking area would be, so we might need a permit to actually do some work inside that 250-foot buffer. If we brought it back up this way, we wouldn't need any permit. But after talking to the state, it didn't seem that a permit would be that big of a deal in that area because there's really nothing being built there. It's just gravel being thrown down. So that's the plan that we came up with. We then went out, lastly, we also talked about security cameras. And if the need arises, we could put some poles up and put some security cameras up. Chris back here on the committee went through a whole process to cost those out. So that's an option as well. So we tried to uncover every stone, tried to make sure that we were low impact as possible, and trying to make sure that nobody can get onto the property to the south of that or onto the farmland to the north, and we want to make it as visually appealing as possible. So that's the conceptual plan. A couple of factoids related to this and that piece of property. The 525 is the feet of driveway from 3A to the parking area. The 50 by 75 in that vicinity is the size of the parking area. The 2.5% is the percentage of frontage that we would be using for the driveway, somewhere in the vicinity of 30 feet of the 1,200 feet of frontage of that piece of property would be used to support this. The 11% is the approximate percentage of land that we would be using on this piece of property. There's 13.6 acres of land. If we used all that area that I highlighted out there, it comes to about an acre and a half. So it's in the 10 to 12% range. and 0 trees would be cut. There wouldn't be any disturbance to any trees. Those are kind of some factoids related to that. Other things that we looked at. Rich talked to the fire department, and they had mentioned that this would be a good place to have access to the river because they, if I'm not mistaken, they really don't have much access right now. The access that they have is difficult.
Jason, if I could.
Yes.
I was a little bit confused as to what the department uses for access for rescue down to the river. So I sent an email to the chief and actually had a meeting with Doug Nicole. And he said currently the fire department does not have any public access to the river for rescues. They currently use a place down on Wilson's farm, but there's times during the year when that is very inaccessible. They also have a place down by St. Francis, but again, it's really difficult for them to utilize that. So this would provide public access in the same vicinity as the fire department. So it would provide a good place for them for rescue access. We talked a little bit about the getting a boat down to the river, and you know, we might have to jig with that some, but we should be able to do that without too much trouble. So with that conceptual plan, the fire department would be much better access capabilities for rescues.
Thanks. We also took a look at ADA compliance and what we would have to meet as far as that's concerned. I did a lot of research this. I think Rich talked to somebody at the state, and Chris back here also did some research on this, and it doesn't seem like it's too big of a deal to make sure that anything that we put in there is ADA compliant. It pretty much, you just need a firm packed surface that's at least 3 feet wide. And as we are not building a boat ramp of any sort, we're just leaving it the way it is, and we don't have to really do much down there. We talked to the state about permitting. If we're within 250 feet of the river, we need to potentially get a shoreland permit, and we also talked to the DOT, and driveway permitting is very easy as well. We've got plenty of visibility. We're not near any other intersecting roads, and we're good to go. We also did a little bit of deed research and took a look at if there was anything in the deed that prohibited this. We didn't see anything in the deeds from the Hillsborough County Registry of Deeds. And then we also took it to the next level and started doing some investigation on construction options. So let me flip to that next. So what would it take to actually build this thing? Right now, it looks like we have 2 options, one of which Rich is going to talk about in a second. Option number 1 is having this constructed by the United States Army as a pilot project for them. And Rich, you want to go over what you've discussed with them?
For those of you that were around during in the late 80s, if you remember the building at Dare Pond, we were able to tap into the Army Reserve battalion up at the airport, and they used the gymnasium at Dare Pond as a training site, and they actually were able to, just with the town buying materials, we were able to save the building. And as you know, it's become quite a good resource. So we decided to take a look and see if that was still possible. So Pete and I went to a meeting with 3 people from the Army Reserve, and they were delighted to hear from us that they've been so busy with deployments that they rarely get a chance to go out and do training. And so this was really seen as an opportunity for them to do the types of things that we're looking for. Now, there's quite an administrative hoops that you have to go through, and Joan and I have met on this and started the paperwork process, and we intend to meet with the selectmen on Monday just to go over that. But, so it's not a done deal. But like I said, their attitude was that they were absolutely delighted with this. Basically, the only thing that we have to pay for with respect to the Army is the fuel. They'll be using Army trucks and Army equipment and so forth, going from Litchfield sand and gravel. We'll have to pay for the fuel, but other than that, you know, we might provide lunch or whatever. But for the most part, it's a true win-win situation, because they get the opportunity to do some training, and we are able to get it. I always feel that with respect to spending public money, I always want to do it as if it was coming out of my own pocket. And certainly taking it, having the Army do it is a lot better than me paying for it. So, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, just like you said, they seem pretty excited. They don't get to do this type of work that often. They said usually they're working on a simulator, and this will give them actually the real world experience to help them. So,
Rich, you want to talk about the materials for a second?
Yeah, the materials themselves, I haven't gotten a definitive cost of those, but in either of these scenarios, Rick Charbonneau has agreed to donate the materials for the gravel and whatever we would use for paving, and also the big boulders for the security system. So that, again, it's a significant saving in both cases.
So going over option one, the UMS, knock on wood, this could work out. The Army would do the construction, and we would be responsible for the materials.
Do you know, I'm sorry, do either of you know, is there any kind of a contract or anything that we would have to sign with the Army? My only concern here is probably nothing, is just whether, you know, we would have to sign some agreement that limits use of the land or otherwise dictates what we can do or not do.
They didn't mention anything like that. It's remarkably smooth. You know, once you get it approved, and the approval process, there's a lot of red tape. But once you get it approved, as far as, you know, it's a public use type of thing. Other than that, there's not a big, if that answers your question.
Oh, I don't think there would be a problem. I'm just asking you to kind of keep your eyes open, in particular, to make sure that, you know, it is the government. No offense, government, but, you know, I don't trust you a whole lot.
It's interesting when I reflect back on the days at Bear Pond, because the guys, when they were there, it was just before Desert Storm, and it was in the fall, and they were scheduled to be deployed. All the time when they were working at Bear Pond, they had gas masks on their hip as a training thing. They had to wear gas masks on their hip, and you know, they got deployed after that. So, kind of interesting.
So those are the you got to take these with a little bit of a grain of salt, because we haven't priced out every single thing yet, but we think that if the Army does it, that this whole project could be done for under $10,000. And if we had a contractor do it, Rich went and got one price, so we only got one price, from a firm that would lay down the driveway, and that cost was $21,000 to have someone actually put it in using the materials from Continental. So low end, under 10,000, high end, you know, 29,000.
The only thing that I see that you don't have on there is the cost of the security system.
Nope, so I got that next.
Okay,
So
I'm sorry.
then we have some optional items. So the pricing that we put together here makes a couple of assumptions. You know, one assumption is that some of us are going to do some of the work here, and like potentially helping install the fence and maybe building some sort of sign for the place. Could be a good scout project. Those type of things. So we didn't put any labor in here. So if we had someone do it for us, I got pricing for fence installation, which was anywhere between $2,100 and $5,000. If we wanted to put security cameras in there, it's expensive. Chris back here did a lot of, actually you're in the security, he's in the security industry, and did a lot of research on this, and if we had security cameras back there, it could be upwards of 45 grand
Yeah,
for solar.
It's not so much the cameras, it's the solar power for them. It's what needs to power the equipment that's out there.
And that figure there is a real Cadillac situation.
And then if we did something a little bit different and we didn't put boulders down and we decided to run fence down the whole way, it might be, you know, another 8, 9, 10, 11 grand depending on what type of fence that you have. We did get pricing from Gate City Fence. We got 2 prices. We got pricing for the white vinyl fence that's got 3 split rails in them. And then we also got pricing for that kind of old school, cool, Western style split rail fence. And that was actually half the price. And you could get like a cedar wood fence. That might look pretty neat down there.
That last type is what Steve Normandin has around the farm there by my house.
Yep.
It's the Abraham Lincoln split rail types.
Exactly. So that's really about it to report. We were asked by the Recreation Commission, well, by the way, we did vote on this, on these 3 options, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was like,
August 17th, we voted, 11 members in attendance, and it was passed 10-1.
on this option here. And then the Recreation Commission asked us to provide them with some of the numbers so that they can start thinking about budgeting. And that's where we are.
Thank you.
In the surveillance cameras up there, do you think that, should we do it now, or should we say, well, if we have a problem, maybe we should readdress that at a later date? Because, I mean, we don't have that at Dura Pond or any of our other facilities here in Litchfield.
All of this, really, it has to go through the budgeting process, and there's a lot, there's absolutely nothing cast in stone.
Right.
So, you know, we could come up with some sort of security system, like a trail cameras or something. And I was able to locate today a source for used telephone poles. So we could put some telephone poles with trail cameras on, and you know, we're going to have to hash that out. But there's nothing cast in stone with respect to, and that's the obvious example. Roger.
The intent is that the gate, knock on wood, would be closed at night, at 8 o'clock at night, or when it gets dusk, close the gate down, and nobody could get in there after hours.
You should be able to cut down on anyone getting in where they shouldn't be, too.
Is the police department aware of like this plan, and do they have any idea? Do they have any opinions about it? If so,
I can't remember who it was, but somebody talked to the police department.
I talked to the police chief, and he said that they would go down there if it was an accessible driveway, and of course they would have a fire and safety had a soft spots on there. But no, he hasn't seen this actual plan.
okay.
A couple other tidbits just for reference purposes. So, as we have always stated, this is not meant for driving a boat down to the river. It's meant for carry in only. Knock on wood, the gate would be shut at night, And then we also talked about during the wintertime, or if the river was flowing really fast, the gate would be shut as well.
Any other questions?
I have a couple, sorry.
Uh-oh.
So, I'm sorry. So this might be a dumb question, but how far back is that iron gate from the road?
Well,
Potentially.
we haven't gotten that far yet, but it probably would be a car length in.
Okay, because I was just thinking about plows, but yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And
So
then-
if someone did turn in there and the gate was, it wouldn't be half in and out and hanging on the road. So probably like a Darapon where you drive in, it'd probably be about 10 feet down there.
And is this something that would be like closed during like the winter, or would someone have to plow it maybe? Or I don't know. Like,
Closed, no maintenance, low to no maintenance, closed in the wintertime.
Any other question? Okay.
Have you talked to, I assume that the abutter, is that the Berg house?
Yes.
Yeah. Are they, do they seem to be okay with what you?
Well, she was on the committee,
Oh, she was, so.
so
I
she
guess
was
she's-
as part of the whole
Okay,
process.
all right.
It's the
And,
one dissenting vote.
Okay, all right.
and so we worked with them. We also met with the farmers at the field and listened to their concerns about people potentially getting on there with four-wheeler and driving around and stuff. And so the way that the conceptual plan was laid out was to try to mitigate as much of that as possible.
Anything else? Well, we thank you for your time. Very good.
Public comment?
Any public comment? Right.
Ray Peoples, 205 Charles Bancroft Highway. I spent a number of years up there with you guys in the Conservation Commission as well as the Planning Board and as a selectman. And one of the things that I worked on for a long time was river access. But it wasn't river access the town of Litchfield was going to be charged with paying for, maintaining, or looking after. The state has long promised the town of Litchfield access. They own the land, they have the plans drawn, but we have never been able to get enough state representation in Concord to put the pressure on them to build it. Because it should not be a town of Litchfield problem. They provide access all over the state to the state's waterways, which the Merrimack River is one of. We should be pushing at the state level to get this done. I wish Rich had taken as much time and pushed them up there to revive those plans and get them moving as he has taken on this project. Also, you know, I'm kind of disappointed that the McQuestion family isn't represented here tonight to talk to this. But, I mean, I'm not sure if all of you guys have seen the letter that Rich wrote. It was nothing short of a threat.
Mhm.
And the poor tenants on the land that rent this piece of property, they've been here since 1744 when the farmhouse was built there on 3A. They're long-term residents. They have some concerns. Their concerns are basically around what happens when people get access into their fields and the damage they do, not just from four-wheelers and stuff. I'm here speaking a little bit for Charlie because he's not all that articulate. He's a farmer. He's a man of the land. He's not a sophisticated engineer or a state representatory person or a great orator. We need to take that into consideration. But I'm not against river access. I worked long and hard for that. But I think we ought to go back to the state of New Hampshire and put the pressure on them to do what they said they were going to do over and over again. You know, why should Litchfield be the poor bastard stepson? We should get, you know, a little bit of something for all the money we sent to the state in one way or another. You know, other than that, I applaud the efforts of the board. I think it's great. I think the town of Litchfield deserves having this access. I just don't think this is quite the right place. That's all I got to say about it.
Any other public input?
Pete Salidas, 30 Pierce. I have a question. You were saying you're working long and hard. What was out there? I mean, this has been, I've heard from people that have wanted river access for 40 years and haven't had it.
Yeah,
And it's just taken a few people looking into things and getting it done.
Pete, the state should be providing this, and they have the plans drawn up for the piece of land across the street from the library. Those
That's
plans
been-
exist up at the state.
That's been investigated, and we were told that they wouldn't pass the permits because of the grade there. We've talked to people at the state.
Yeah, there's over a 25% slope on that land, and we talked to the folks at the state, and they said the first thing that they would look at is there, well, number one, it's past the 25% slope, so that puts up a red flag right there. And if you could put it there, they would look at other public-owned properties within the vicinity and see if there's something better. And this just happens to be perfect. The slope is great, everything, it checked every box. We would have loved to have put it, and everybody on the committee would have loved to have put it on the state property.
I didn't come to start a running public debate, I came here to make a statement.
Yep.
And I am not opposed to this. I'm opposed to where it's going. I'm not opposed to the access. It's a great idea. In the last week, I walked all the properties that we have as well, looking at that. It is, as far as slopes and construction, the easiest thing. But just because it's the easiest thing doesn't mean it's the thing we should do. Again, we need to get up and get the state moving on their piece of property to give because this will not be just the town of Litchfield residents. I live across the street from Parker Park, and it is an attractive nuisance. People come and go in there all the time. We know the town people that come and go, but there's lots of other folks that do as well. So I just think we need to open, as we go into this, we need to be concerned with all those things as well. And my one voice is going to stop this project. I just think that it needs to go on record that there are other options. We just need to pursue them. Easiest is not always bestest.
Well, if I could briefly respond to that. This is the first meeting you've been to, right?
Yes.
These other people have been going to meetings and subcommittee meetings for a long time.
I've never seen a public notice for this.
Okay,
I learned about this on Facebook.
you spoke your piece, could I just point out, okay. You haven't, this is the first meeting you've been to, and you're making judgments as to what effort people have put into this. It seems a bit unfair to me. These people have been putting a lot of effort into this. How do you think we're going to make the state fund a project that they claim they don't have the money to fund and aren't willing to do anyway? Legislation? I mean, how do you plan on doing this?
We have state reps. We have representation up there. We should have them pushing on for that project.
Well, I've been going to legislative meetings now for 3 sessions. I can tell you things don't get done that easily in the legislature, and I don't think there's any other way up there of doing it. I guess I'm asking you for your input. If you say there's another way, how are we going to get it done?
I didn't say there was another way. I said that I would want to explore that way before we did this. That's all.
Well, I'm going to say...
And I do appreciate all the hard work that's went in. And like I said, I seen this thing come to life on Facebook. I didn't see a public notice for it anywhere. I may have been interested in serving on that, as I've served on other committees in this town for a long time. I just was upset about some of the stuff that's happened. That letter, extremely upsetting to me.
I just read the letter. I don't see anything remotely close to a threat in there. Do you want to read it and tell me what the threat is?
I find the threat myself.
In what way?
I just find I find it a bullying letter. One of their members bullying the McQuestion family, and there's no question in my mind it was definitely a bullying letter. But that's Rich's style anyhow. He loves to bully. And but I'm just going to make my comment, then I'm going to wrap it up for tonight as far as I'm concerned. And if you want my resignation, you can have it, because this is ridiculous. I voted to spend $610,000 to buy a piece of land for conservation. Conservation, not for recreation. Recreation wants to buy a piece of land, let them go buy a piece of land. We spent $610,000, you're right. But this was for conservation. We would hope for perpetuity this would be farmland. By just, you totally changed the character of that particular piece of land, because now it's farmed all the way to the property line of the Bergs, all the way up to the driveway, I should say, beyond the property line. Now there's going to be a big void in between. Basically it's going to be an unsightly, ugly spot in town. And it's right hot in the middle of in the center part of town. It's just, I just find it ridiculous. I'm totally in favor of boat access, river access. I think it's a wonderful thing, but I think this, again, is the wrong location for it. The McQuestions have been farming that field for probably 25 years. And to basically, by doing what we're doing, we're basically taking it away from them. The access is going to be a problem. The people who are going to be in there are going to be stealing produce. It's just a fact of nature.
I got to respond. You said there's other ways. We've showed you every piece of land. You've been against this from the get-go.
Yeah.
Because you're related to them.
No.
Well,
because I spent $610,000 to preserve farmland, not to build a damn boat launch.
They're saying river. So you had one vote, those two people also had a vote.
Mhm.
Their vote is just as important as yours.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's not on the record that it was on the deed for farmland.
I think the original motion was in perpetuity as farmland.
So people.
It got changed.
Investigate work. But, okay, you're saying this, you're for it, but this isn't the spot.
No.
Where's the spot?
There's other spots in town.
Okay, we're sitting here.
But, I've been discussing with Mr. Lynch. Mr. Lynch has got a couple spots in mind right now.
Okay.
Why
I
doesn't
mean-
Mr. Lynch ever come and tell us
Yeah.
that?
I mean, why is this waiting until the midnight hour?
Mhm.
We've showed you multiple, there's been 7 locations, we've showed you.
I just told you I put my 2 cents in. I'm wrapping it up tonight as far as I'm concerned. You
Could
want
we
my
have
resignation,
Mr.
you can have
Lynch
it.
at this meeting next month and put this to bed and find out where these other spots are?
If there's other spots, we gladly investigate. We've looked at the
Certainly.
7 spots.
There are none. We looked at every single public piece of property.
There's a state DOT piece way down the south end of Litchfield that's way, like 2,500 feet probably from the road. That's the other only piece that I know that would be flat enough.
We'll take it under advisement. We'll have Mr. Lynch in next month, and we'll reconvene the discussion at that point. Thank you for your input.
Steve Gannon, can I just say something, 12 Nelson Cave Drive? As a Litchfield resident and somebody on this subcommittee, I'd love to have access to the river. I have a boat that I can't use. I have to haul up to the lakes to get access to, or even my kayak. I don't live on the river, so I can't get access to the river. But I'm paying for, I helped pay $610,000 for this piece of land.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Sensitive. Well,
That was from impact fees that was turned into
Current
town.
use- current
Current
use
use fees. So you did not pay for it. sir.
Okay, I stand corrected. We are sensitive, we're not saying we're taking over the field from the
You-
farmers.
yes,
We are
you
very
are.
sensitive
I know-
about
I know
the
you're not.
farmers, and we're also sensitive about the Berg family. We're trying just to get a small piece of land that we could have access to the river as well. The last thing we want to do is put the McQuestion family out of business. That we all support them, they're a local farmer.
That's one more spike in the demise of the McQuestion farm. That's what it is.
That's not the only piece of land they have.
No, they rent a lot of pieces, but that's a key piece in their entire income for the entire year. And I'm just saying it's a very important piece in their entire process. So thank you.
Have Mr. Lynch come in next week and show us some other options that we were not aware of, that'd be great. We looked at 7 and they were all ruled out for various reasons.
Thank you.
Did you
Could
get
I,
this- did you
could
get
I
this
speak?
gentleman's name?
My name was brought up
Mhm.
a couple of different times, and I was called bully, and so I would like to respond. Mr. Levesque has shared with you folks a letter that I chose to write. I didn't have to write that letter. It wasn't aimed at being threatening to anyone. I was trying to use a letter to convince people that this is a good thing for them to support. That's all I was trying to do. I didn't go behind anybody's back. I copied Tom. I copied the entire Levesque family. I copied Dana Boucher because he was mentioned in the letter, and I also copied Joan. So it was completely out in the open. It wasn't meant to be a threat in any way, shape, or form. What I was trying to do was to try to convince all of those folks to support this, because I'm convinced that this is good for the town. And their support is, I was trying to encourage that. Now, if it came across as being some sort of a bully, I'm sorry. It wasn't meant that way. This process of the Conservation Commission forming a committee, the committee went out and investigated, went through a process of investigating all of these. I didn't have any preconceived notions. In fact, I set up a meeting for a space that isn't even in Litchfield, up under the new bridge, because I thought possibly that would be a good chance. I haven't set foot on any of these others because I'm not capable. But I don't think there's anything better that we could do as a town than this. So that's all I have to say.
I thank the committee, and we'll reconvene next month. Thank you.
number 7 key, I lost my keys. Yeah, everything's in there now. I will go see if Jerry's still out there. Let's see, where are we?
Next item.
Thank you for all your
Thank you
help.
for your time.
It was a good presentation, thank you.
Good night.
Other business. Arbor Circle off Page Road.
I have a lot of stuff on other business, quick stuff. Okay, Arbor Circle called, they are off of Page Road, they want to cut some trees, and their conservation easement goes right up to the buildings, their wetland setback. I went down and looked at the trees, and, I don't have any problem with what they wanna do. There's some that are leaning, some that are, split trunks, and so I said I would bring it up to you, and that I agreed with what they were doing.
I would move that we go along with Joan's recommendations where she's viewed the site. Any questions or comments? No? Okay, just convey that if you would, Joan.
Okay. Morris Falls annual report. As you know, we have a fish and game, easement on that top piece at Morris Falls, and they did their annual report. They mentioned there was a small TV and microwave dump there,
Really, when was that? I was down there like a month ago.
it must have been after that, and I asked Jack, he was gonna get it, but he forgot, but I was down there with, the library people, so I picked it up, they weren't heavy, and took them to the dump took it, so that took care of that. Otherwise, things were pretty good down there.
The grass seemed kind of tall. Should we cut the,
If you can, before September 30th, that was another thing I had here, the library's having a, walk down there September 30th.
okay, do you know where the DL mower is?
It's not in the shed.
Jack was using it last I knew, I thought.
Oh, that's Kevin.
All right, I have keys, I can check to make sure.
Okay.
Do you know if it's been serviced at all? Because he was using it for a
I
while.
don't think it has.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
You could check with Jack, though. You can usually catch him at 7 if you want to be down there and catch him at the garage.
Or I see him just about every,
Mhm.
except only here 2
Yep.
days a week. So that's annual in Morris Falls, Arbor Circle. The Association of Conservation Commission's annual meeting is November 4th. I strongly suggest that the new people go to that. And I think, so that's, where is it gonna be?
Pembroke Academy in Pembroke, New Hampshire.
Pembroke, yeah, it's really easy to get there, so the town pays for you to go, so let me know if you wanna go to that.
Absolutely.
And a lot of good talks. What else do I have? September 30th, NHACC, Morris Falls, Arbor Circle. I think that's it. That's it.
Rainfall report, Roger.
Yeah,
And see if I can get the janitor.
See if we can catch him before he goes.
I have, actually 3 months' worth because I wasn't here last month. So for the month of June, we had a total of 8.2 inches of rain.
Right?
For the month of July, we had 6.9 inches of rain. And for the month of August, we had 9.2 inches of rain. So we've had a pretty wet
That's for
summer.
sure. And what did you have the other day on this in September? What did you have, what'd you say you just had?
Today,
Yeah.
last
Yeah,
night,
yeah.
I had 4.7.
Huh?
I had 4.7 last night.
4.7, yeah. Yeah, I had 2.5, just about 2.5, so,
Ain't that much last night?
yeah.
Oh, it poured all night long.
All night long, just
Yeah.
poured and poured and poured.
Good.
Yeah.
So if you want to put those in the record.
Yep. Well, enter 'em down here. Okay, minutes of August 3rd. Does anybody have any minutes of August 3rd anywhere?
I wasn't here.
I don't think there anything's been done.
You're probably right.
Where'd Joan go?
She went to try to get a key.
Oh, I didn't
She's
know
locked
she
out of her,
stayed.
she's
Well,
locked
if anyone
out of
would
her
know,
office
she
and her
would.
car keys are in it. So she's gonna stay for the night.
I even went through my emails today and looked for minutes. I didn't see.
I did too, I
Yeah,
did that
okay,
before.
so-
Did you get the key? Oh,
Yeah.
good.
I'll have to walk home.
Any minutes?
No, Marion did them, and she couldn't, her computer happened, something happened to it. She couldn't send them to me.
Okay, that's why we don't have any. Okay, so at this time, we're gonna go into non-public, unless you have something else, Joan?
Just that I did invite William to the September 30th walk down at Morris Falls. A lady that had taken the Speaking for Wildlife course was giving the talk, but I'm gonna go too, so I know a lot of the history of the site. And Roger, if you wanna go, September 30th, 1 o'clock, library's playing. They have 13 people signed up so far.
Do we have to sign up?
Yeah, just call the library.
Okay.
And, did you get my message today?
4 of those were our family. For the 13.
Well, that's good. Well represented.
How is the project going down there?
It's going up. All I needed was the roof for those plaques, so it's all good.
So you're gonna put the write-up that you did on the plaque and then put them on posts sunk in concrete? That's the idea? Now, where are they, most of them are gonna be, or what, throughout, or how are you gonna do that?
So one of them is going to be near the kiosk. Then where the trail splits
Mm-hmm.
two routes, there's gonna be one there. Then I think the normal route is to go right
Yeah.
and not left. So there's going to go down the right one, and then you'd be. And when you start going left, there's going to be one there.
Maybe Roger could, before you do that, just look at where he wants to put them.
Sure.
To make sure that, they're gonna stay there more than 24 hours.
And the final
point.
two are going to be so there's going to be the gird rope around the cellar pool,
Okay,
and 2 of those plaques are going to be on either side of the cellar pool.
okay,
Okay, that's a good idea.
good, okay. And do you have a time frame for that? Or you don't know how long the printer's gonna take?
It shouldn't take too long.
Okay.
So probably before the walk.
Oh, okay, good, very good. Thanks.
Which is coming fast.
When does your project have to be done?
It doesn't really matter to the.
Or you don't have a
to
deadline?
To the Eagle board, it doesn't matter.
Just before you're 18?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the magic number, so your birthday isn't coming up too fast. But probably at our age, it comes up too fast. But
You have my email address. You can always just email me anytime that you want to do a site walk with you, and I can go down.
Very good, thank you, Roger, for your time. And thank you so much for coming in tonight, and, yeah, thank you for your project.
Nice seeing you, William.
Nice seeing you too.
Okay, non-public, RSA 91A, colon 3D.
Right.
Do you want the temperature adjusted before I go?
Yes,
Yes, please, feels like it's
please.
gonna snow in here again. Yeah.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
I had it at 68. What do you
Oh, my
want,
God.
70?
72.
72, 73.
So we're